on the universities and stuff, we have the news that I'll believe it when I see it, that Trump wants to abolish the Department of Education, the federally, which I think Jimmy Carter set up. So it's not exactly the end of a cherished ancient institution. It's also highly controversial. But here's the thing. In trying to combat some of the cray-cray that we're publicly funding, we're in this difficult position in which we don't want to really violate academic freedom, but we feel that has been violated itself by the academics who've use that freedom to basically not educate but indoctrinate and not offer a sufficient variety of perspectives for people to be able to make up their own minds, and not foster an environment where any viewpoint can be aired without fear or favor, which is what the university was entirely designed to do. Can we use government to say, for example, can we tell, I guess the DHA could sue Harvard or sue Big for race discrimination, or you could cut federal funds for groups that do not balance critical race theory with a regular view of history, for example. But I get queasy, I'm sure you do too, with governments dictating curricula, even though they have to at some point in public schools and so on, but certainly at university level. Are you excited by the idea that some of this stuff could be fought back by an active federal government, or does that give you the willies like it does me a little bit?
First, with respect to the Department of Education, the question is always, if you abolish the department formally, but everything that it does continues to be done by the federal government, and you shunt it over under some other department, I'm not sure how meaningful that's likely to be. I do think that having an energetic, adroit, capable leader to use that role as a bully pulpit and to use that role to address accreditation, to use that role in a really thoughtful, aggressive way to address real civil rights violations that are happening, which are, oftentimes targeting members of so-called overrepresented groups. I think that would be really interesting, first of all. And second, to your larger question, I guess my view is that there's absolutely a place for academic freedom. It's important. But also, when you're thinking about higher education, it's a variegated landscape. And there are some institutions that are really meant to be essentially pre-professional, that are meant to provide a service. Are they providing that service especially well in terms of training people, providing them with the ability to find remunerative employment? There's so many things so broken about the system where it almost seems as though we've created this, cosseted welfare state for a group of lunatics who wouldn't otherwise be employable. Another thing to keep in mind is that 1 in 3 students in post-secondary education in the United States are educated by red state public universities. So, one piece of this is that, look, you as a lawmaker in one of these states have a lot more authority than you might think you do. That's not to say that it would be wise or prudent for you to seek to impose your own, ideologically rigid conception of how knowledge ought to be produced and disseminated. But rather, you do have the right to say, actually, I believe that this diversity bureaucracy you've built is a poison. I think that there are things that we ought to do that are consistent with federal law, but otherwise we should grant wide autonomy. We want to experiment. The thing that I think about the racial preference cases, the Supreme Court striking down racial preferences in higher education, is that it's going to be a game of whack-a-mole. You're still going to see them manifest in this or that way, but you're giving an opportunity to institutions that want to be colorblind, that want to be meritocratic. You're giving them the freedom to do it. You're interrupting this powerful isomorphism, this powerful pressure that's coming from every angle, including from grant-making federal programs, from the National Science Foundation, the National Institutes of Health, that are embedding these noxious and frankly, scientific ideas, through their grant making. So these are things where, of course, there are going to be some institutions that will continue to pursue this because they're so dogged and determined. But that's no excuse for some institutions that now have the wherewithal to forge a different path that will continue to be difficult, but they must do it.
So if they become, then the idea is they become the models, that they succeed, that more people want to go to them, that in fact probably they become more race diverse because more people want to come but they don't have to sacrifice their standards.